は学べたあのにこうなったしその罪を償うべき不良ボーイズどうするの隠れて意味ないんだよ不良ボーイズどうするの隠れて意味ないんだよコツは警察官と共に撮影されております。すべての被告人は無罪判決されるまで推定無罪である。
From improbable idea to reality. In early 2023, I turned my 1998 Mitsubishi 3000 GT into a replica of the Ibaraki Prefecture Police GTO. Lots of planning and over 2 years of research went into this, and I wanted to break down the car in great detail and explain the process it took to create this. Ever since I first purchased my 3000 GT, I wanted to do something unique with it. But with the perceived unreliability of the cars, and my job keeping me overseas, I never thought it would be possible. Yet, just for fun, I began looking up livery ideas for the car when I was bored. My first thought was to turn the car into a replica of the Japanese Air Self-Defense Force Blue Impulse jets, which is similar to the American Blue Angels or the British Red Arrows. In fact, I went so far as to have a mock-up of this drawn, and it's actually stuck in my head to this day. However, another equally ambitious idea entered my head as I was doing research: the Mitsubishi GTO Police Car. I've already made a video explaining the history of the GTO and Japanese police service, as well as every known car. To sum it up briefly, the National Police Agency bought GTO twin turbos for different police units in the 1990s with public funds. Some were used as police interceptors, while others took on a more publicity-type focus. It is known that these special GTOs were given their own factory codes by Mitsubishi, MNGF9 and MJGF9. They were even given their own paint codes. One was painted H28 silver. The remaining 27 were in standard WX9 black and white police pattern. Most of the cars were used in the late 90s and early 2000s. Many were scrapped or retired after 15 to 20 years. The two most famous GTO police cars are the Aichi Prefecture 4358 car and the Niigata Prefecture 241 car, which are still in service today as public relations vehicles. There is also a retired Osaka police car used by the Panda company for TV shows and movies. It is unknown to me whether or not any other GTO police cars survived, although I doubt it, as I haven't been able to find any mention or record of them for quite a long time. My current 3000 GT was bought in early 2020. At the time, I already had a base model, but it needed a paint job, and so the SL I currently have was bought because it had a really nice paint job in my favorite color, Glacier Pearl White. The Pearl White is my favorite color simply because that was the one my father had when I was a kid, and I sat in the back in the car seat when I was 6, and I was just in love with the car. In mid-2022, my engine died, and I ended up swapping a rebuilt motor, transmission, and putting a new clutch into the car. With all the money spent fixing it up, I decided, well, I might as well spend more money and get the livery painted. But which to choose? I decided that the Blue Impulse or Mitsubishi F1 or F2 liveries would require a lot of research, replication of decals, especially those that are in Japanese. And the idea of making a replica of a real police car that actually saw service just seemed really cool and unique to me. And so that's what I decided. At the time I had done my research, I didn't know if anyone had ever made a Japanese police car in the United States. And so I did all of the work and research on my own. It was only after I debuted the car that I met a small community of enthusiasts just like me who have made or want to make their own Japanese police replicas. So now that I knew I wanted to make the police car, I needed to do research and decide which car I wanted to base mine off of. Typing in 3000 GT or GTO police car into Google yields a few pictures. Although truthfully most of my research came from searching in Japanese. Since I'm a merchant mariner by trade, I spend a lot of time staring out of a window, and I spent many dozens of hours bored on my ship looking at pictures of police cars. Of the 28 GTO police cars, I was able to find pictures of about 15 of them, although most of them were old, blurry, or just not the right caliber to be able to make a model off of. Since my car is a 2.5 generation 3000 GT, I wanted to find one that was of the same gen, and that narrowed it down to about 6 cars from various prefectures. Next, I wanted a car that had a lot of reference pictures, and came from a place in Japan that I have personally visited, and that narrowed it down to only 2 places, the Aichi Prefecture 4358 car and the Ibaraki Prefecture 4429 car. The Aichi car had by far the most pictures for reference, but it was missing a few items that I wanted. It didn't have the wind deflector on the hood, nor did it have the kanji for the prefecture on the rear spoiler. Now, it was my irrational fear that people would think my car was a replica of the initial D Fujiwara Tofu AE86, and so I wanted it to stand out. Another reason why I chose the Ibaraki Prefecture is that it was used by the Ibaraki Prefecture Expressway Traffic Police Corps, commonly known as the Highway Traffic Police Corps, basically their highway patrol, as a real police interceptor, unlike the Aichi car, which spent most of its life as a public relations and show vehicle. Having decided on which car I would now use, I collected as many reference photos as I could and got to learning as much about Japanese police cars and GTOs as possible to turn my car into both. I gave myself a deadline. The car had to be ready for the Mitsubishi owners meet only a few months away. I was still on a ship, and so I would have to buy all the items in advance and put it together in only a month when I got home from work. It was an ambitious deadline, but I had been wanting to do this idea for more than 4 years, and I needed to stop procrastinating. I made a list of every item I would need and categorized them from easiest to hardest. The biggest hurdles, by far, would be the following 3 items: the black and white livery itself, the OEM wheels, and the light bar. Right off the bat, I had to decide whether to wrap the car or to paint it. Although I really wanted to go with paint, I didn't want to get rid of the beautiful pearl white paint that was already on it. However, when I took it to a paint expert, they told me it was a respray, and since it wasn't the original factory paint, it made it easier for me to get rid of. Next was the cost, and in that sense, painting the car wasn't going to be much more expensive than a wrap, so that helped me lean even more towards the paint option. Finally, I decided if I wanted to make a real replica, I couldn't skimp out. After all, the Japanese had painted their GTOs, and so I would paint my 3000 GT as well. The next hurdle was finding someone willing to paint the car, and this proved difficult. Of the dozen or so places I called or emailed about painting the car, they either never responded or flat out told me no. One place even told me that it would be impossible. And then, out of the blue, I saw a Facebook post from a gentleman named Mr. Daniel, who advertised his paint business, Iris Customs. His post specifically said that he could, quote, turn your dream into a reality. And so, I messaged him about my idea, and he said yes. He would help me with everything, from the paint to making the wind deflector, helping with decals, and making the car ready. And he would be able to do it in the short 3-week time span before the Mitsubishi owners meet. So I dropped it off to him with all the items I had acquired, and Mr. Daniel got to work. He was very transparent, and we worked very close together to make sure the paint was as close to the reference photos as possible. I had about 4 reference photos that I knew would perfectly capture what I wanted for the car, and giving him them, he got to work. He did everything, and when it was done, it came out amazing. I couldn't believe that it was my own car. The next impossible hurdle was the OEM 6-spoke chrome VR4 wheels. These 18-inch chrome rims only came on the VR4 models from 1995 to 1999 in the US and 1995 to 2001 in Japan, and are extremely rare finds. So rare that for nearly 2 years that I searched for them, I had never seen them for sale. I would hear about them selling for $2,000+, but no one had ever put them up. And since the Ibaraki car was a 2.5 gen, it had to have the 6-spoke rims. I basically gave up on getting them and decided I would get the 17-inch first generation VR4 rims and chrome them out instead to kind of make it look like it. But I knew it would never be perfect unless I got those 6-spoke wheels. And then, out of the blue, a gentleman posted them on Facebook. I reached out, made him an offer. Not only were these mint condition OEM takeoff rims, they came from a real GTO in Japan and shipped directly to my house. The final hurdle was finding a light bar. At the time I was doing all the research on my own, and so I could not find Japanese Osaka light bars, although I do know ways to buy them now through my contacts with other JDM police enthusiasts. I searched through various light bars until I found a Chinese police light on a site called DHgate. I knew this was a real light bar as I had seen it all over Asia on various police cars and even boats. I also decided to go with this style over the OEM Japanese light bar because I didn't want to permanently affix it to my roof. I wanted to be able to make the light bar magnetic so I could take it off when driving. Honestly, I figured it would keep the light bar from being damaged and just avoid any unnecessary issues with law enforcement. One slight complication did occur. Although I ordered an all-red light bar to replicate the Japanese style, they sent me a blue and red bar. Because I didn't have time to send it back, I kept it for the Mitsubishi owner's meet. I ended up finding another all-red light bar for cheap on Alibaba Express, another Chinese company, and so now I have two. It actually took some time for the lights to get rigged up, as I didn't have time before Mom. But when they did, wow, did it look great. My mechanic did get annoyed, though, for giving him directions in only Chinese, but he was able to get it hooked up no problem. The control box itself has only one light setting, which cycles through various ones you would see on a US light bar. But for some reason it has 7 different sirens. It is Chinese after all. I'm just glad it works. So for the rest of the car, I figured I would go about it from nose to tail, starting with the front license plate. Finding a place that could emboss a Mito City license plate with the right car number, 4429, was more difficult than I thought it would be. Ibaraki Prefecture, which Mito City is the capital of, is not as famous as Tokyo, Osaka, or Kyoto, so most websites don't have it. But luckily I was able to find a place that sold it. The license plate bracket is OEM, and has screw holes for both American and Japanese license plates. The fog lights are OEM, and feature on both SL, VR4, and GTO twin-turbo models. The headlights are OEM, but did not originally come on my car. Rather, they are glass headlights only found on the 1994 model year GTO 3000 GT and Stealth. Every other year uses a Lexan headlight, or pop-ups in the case of the first gen. And those can yellow really badly over time, especially on the pearl white ones. The glass headlights look much better, although this is a deviation from the Ibaraki GTO, which had Lexans. Another big hurdle was the emblem that is present on all Japanese police cars. It is known as the Kyoko Jitsu Sho, and is a 5-pointed rising sun based off the order of the rising sun. Unless you are able to get your hands on one taken off of a junk car, they cannot be bought, and no one makes replicas. So I had to have it 3D designed and printed. It gets positioned right where the Mitsubishi logo would originally go. On the hood is the wind deflector, which Irish Customs made a prototype for me with plastic. There are a lot of misconceptions of this deflector. Some people say that it's a bug guard, others say that it's in case police hit a pedestrian. But in reality, it deflects the wind over the light bar, which reduces drag overall. I opted to make the deflector magnetic and not bolted to the hood, as I wanted to be able to take it off in case I didn't like the way it came out. I'm currently in the process of having another one made that's a better fit. But the prototype did its job. Going to the engine bay, there's nothing too much to talk about. It's a standard, naturally aspirated 3.0 liter 6G72 engine found on the SL models. Like I said, it's a rebuilt engine and transmission. The only mods done, really, are the air intake, the strut bar, and the fact that the transmission has a limited slip differential, which was not standard to the car. I think now is a good time to address the two big elephants in the room. The car is not a VR4, nor is it right-hand drive GTO. And while I could have imported a GTO from Japan or bought a VR4 and done the paint job to it, I wanted to do the work on a car I knew wouldn't break on me, one that had already had work and time put into it. And I had already spent all the money fixing my SL, so it just made sense to do the work on it, instead of buying a new car just to quote-unquote not be a poser. But you can't buy a Japanese police GTO. Trust me, I looked into it. So no matter what I did, I would be making a replica, I would be a poser. And at the end of the day, that's really what this is. It's a replica. It's not an exact clone. I'm not claiming to have a real one-to-one Japanese police GTO, but it is as close as I could make it. I'm just an enthusiast who had a dream and somehow turned that crazy idea into a reality. Most people get this, but I wanted to break it down. I wanted to be completely honest about the car and, show everybody exactly everything that went into it. Anyway, moving on, we come to the wheels. The OEM rims have already been mentioned. I also have the brake calipers painted red to match the GTO TT calipers in the Ibaraki photos. The tires are Toyo Extensas, which are one of the Japanese brands the police might use. Behind the wheels, we have OEM mudguards, which are actually kind of rare, as most of them have ripped off on cars over time. On the fender, we have GTO Japanese spec side markers, which came on UK and JDM GTOs, but not on 3000 GTs. Moving on to the most noticeable decal on the car, we have the kanji on the door panels, which says Ibaraki Prefectural Police Department. This was one of the hardest aspects of the car to get right, as the kanji font is used exclusively by each individual police department. To make things even harder, Ibaraki changed their font in the mid or late 2000s, so I could only trust the original pics of the GTO I was modeling it after. So I basically had 2 photos at best that fully showed the decal, and they were blurry. I had my partner in crime, Grapefruit Makes Art, painstakingly recreate the logo, basically pixel by pixel, keeping in mind neither of us speak Japanese. And so the result is as close as she could make it. Originally I thought to have it painted on, but decided to go with a vinyl decal in case I ever wanted to make the car a replica of a different prefecture, such as Aichi, Hiroshima, Kanagawa, or Osaka, which also have 2.5 generation cars, and might be cool one day to do down the line. On both sides of the Windows sail panel, I have my Instagram handle, as well as 2 stickers, which were actually not present on the original car, but I thought would help it make it stand apart even more from the initial D car. On the driver's side is a sticker commonly used which says patrolled by police, and on the passenger is a safety first sticker, which I use on my hard hat when I work over in Japan. I think they both look cool, and I wanted to take those liberties for myself. Heading to the roof, we have the light bar as previously mentioned. My SL model came with an upgrade to have a power moonroof. My original had actually rusted really badly, so I got the current one out of a junkyard and repainted it. These moonroofs were obviously not present on the real GTO police cars, but they're kind of a unique thing to the car. Moving to the rear hatch, I replaced it with one off of a junk car because it had some damage and the tint was ripping off. There is a Japanese parking sticker, which is present on the real car. I find this ironic because why would a government vehicle need to have a parking sticker? But regardless, it's there. I should note this is a real parking sticker, not a reproduction, and I don't know how the person I got it from acquired it. I'm not going to ask any questions, but I digress. I have a large magnetic whip antenna to match the whip on the real car. Across the spoiler is the same kanji as the doors. I actually had some trouble determining whether or not the Ibaraki car had this lettering. The Aichi car did not have it at all. One other car had it on the trunk, and the Niigata second generation car had it on the active aero spoiler. Zooming in on the pictures of the Ibaraki car, you can barely make out a black pixel, and I'm about 70% confident that it was kanji lettering. I would love to find more pictures of the car to find out, but like I said, even if it's wrong, not exactly correct, it makes it stand out again from the initial D car. Moving to the taillights and rear garnish, we have the JDM style amber taillights that were not present on the American 3000 GT models. The black GTO garnish is a variation of the GTO logo featured on civilian cars, which had a unique double line design. Some police cars use the OEM double line design, and others, like the Ibaraki and Aichi, use a blocked out design. So I found someone who sold a decal of the original style and had them block it out. I also have the Mitsubishi logo and MR logo matching the pictures. The GTO MR model appeared in the Japanese market in August 1994. The MR stood for Mitsubishi Racing. The GTO MR was a lightweight GTO twin-turbo that deleted four-wheel steering, ABS, ECS, and active aero, but was mechanically identical to the normal GTO twin-turbo model. Not all police GTOs were MRs, but the Ibaraki one was. For the license plate, I already had to support law enforcement, and wouldn't you know, it actually fits the theme, unintentionally. Moving inside the car, we have the rear strut bar, and the place in the trunk where the light bar resides when it's not on the car. The leather interior is tan and black, which I actually prefer. However, the police cars are all black and gray leather, or true black leather. I didn't feel like changing this, personally because I like the tan more, and trying to find a black headliner for another car with a moonroof and black electric seats would be either impossible or really expensive. The seats themselves, I have seat covers on to protect the OEM leather, which tends to crack and rip over time. I have a Sony touchscreen radio, as the car didn't have the OEM radio when I bought it. Next, we have the 3000 GT metal name boards, which are aftermarket parts. Then we have the fire extinguisher, which actually does feature on the real police cars, but it's more of a safety item for myself. And then, of course, the control box for the siren. And there we have it, tip to butt, top to bottom of my 3000 GT GTO Japanese police car. The car's not perfect. It has its flaws, and it's constantly testing my patience and costing me money. But at the end of the day, it's a police car. And police cars aren't perfect. They get scratches, they have issues, but they keep on patrol. The car isn't my daily. It mostly goes to shows, and honestly, it sits in the garage most of the time. But I plan to keep it for as long as I can, and honestly, I never plan on selling it. To me, it's priceless. I want to make a follow-up video thanking everyone who either worked on the car or supplied parts for it, because honestly, I couldn't have done this by myself. This took a lot of work, a lot of research, and a lot of help from so many people. And I also want to make another video detailing all the extra junk that I've bought to go along with the car, because I've really fallen down the Japanese police rabbit hole. But anyway, thanks for watching. I've been so lucky to turn my dream into a reality. And like I said, I didn't do it alone. I'm extremely proud of this car, and I've received so much positive support from so many people, and I'm very grateful. You know, I actually visited the Ibaraki police stations, which had the real car, and showed pictures to the officers there, and they gave me a thumbs up. So I'm pretty happy, pretty content with the job that I've done. Thanks again. See you in the next one.